They're calling it the massacre at City Hall. And of course, all the violence is being put on us protesters. Like we were the ones who charged into the crowd and started busting our own heads open. Don't believe what you've been told about Antifa agents on drugs or some sort of anti-police army. We weren't perpetrators of violence. We were the victims of it. You weren't there. I was. I know what I saw. We were attacked by some sort of elite squad of genetically enhanced police officers. I know how that sounds, but it happened. It happened to me and the people I was with. There was 6 of them, all huge. And I don't mean like they were big guys. I mean like they were each at least 8 feet tall, and they must have weighed like 600 or 700 pounds apiece. They were thick, I'm saying. Thick with muscle. They were wearing riot squad gear, but you could tell it had all been specially designed. Basic black armor, but kind of showy too. Like somebody had talked the cops into fooling around with their own take on a superhero costume. It wasn't quite that, but it was some serious gear. Bulletproofed all over with big, shiny helmets on their heads. This was a few weeks into the protests, or riots. I guess that distinction all depends on what flavor of news you choose to ingest. What I can tell you, having actually been there, was that a bunch of us, a few hundred people at least, had gathered at City Hall along 9th Street. We'd been there for a few hours, and I can assure you everything had been entirely peaceful. There were some speeches from local civil rights leaders and some good old-fashioned chanting and singing. But then, at 8:30 that evening, and I'm talking like 8:30 on the dot, a bunch of cops came out from around the east side of City Hall and started firing tear gas canisters into the crowd. Those were just normal city cops, and they weren't the ones who charged us. But once they'd put a few of those gas canisters amongst us, then the other guys came up from behind the first set of cops. And those guys were the ones who charged the crowd. Those were the big guys. The guys in matching uniforms. No names, no badges, but clearly part of the assembled police force. And let me tell you something, those big guys, they weren't interested in containing anything. Hell, they weren't even trying to make arrests. It was an attack. It's like military technology, what they're putting in those guys' bodies. It's beyond just steroids. They're turning human beings into weapons, living weapons of mass destruction. Your tax dollars at work. The big guys came out swinging, and I saw some gnarly stuff in those first few moments. One guy got knocked into the ground so hard both of his knees shattered. That tall black girl they say got hit by a car. That wasn't no car, man. One of those monster cops backhanded her so hard she flew 20 feet and cracked her spine. And then that kid with the concussion, he took a punch to the back of the head so hard that he was crying tears of blood as his friends carried him away. I saw that happen. My memories are not up for debate. I don't care what the cops said or what you saw in the news. I was there. Most people cleared out pretty fast once the violence started, or they tried to at least. They were scared for their lives, and I get that. But there was a medical unit in one corner of the street, and they couldn't go anywhere. The medics, they were helping some old guy who'd taken a tear gas cartridge to the face. It looked like he'd lost half his nose. By this time, I was squatting down by the perimeter fence, sort of huddled next to this big tree, hiding so I wouldn't get seen. It was from there that I saw all this shit happen. Those big cops, they started attacking the medics. Attacking the medics and destroying the medical supplies. I swear to God, man, I'm never going to recover from that. From seeing police officers trashing medical supplies. Like, how callow do you have to be? How small? How afraid? How much a piece of garbage? It's a fucking war crime is what it is. And they're committing that shit on the citizens of their own city. Shit. Those cops catch a brick in the face or a bullet in the gut, who do they think is going to be patching them up? Their buddies? Or that medic they just clubbed onto the ground? So there's gas and people are screaming, and these 6 big super cops or whatever, they're tearing apart the medical supplies and handing out beatings to anybody who gets within arm's reach of them. And keep in mind, they got long arms. I guess they didn't actually manage to kill anybody, which is a real miracle, but that's also what let the cops try to spin the story so they look like the victims. So, that's when the free runner showed up. I heard about the other times when he shows up and maybe does interference or he makes some mischief to distract the cops, that sort of thing. But this wasn't that. This was something else. He came in hard and it still didn't matter much. Like he didn't hold back when he came down feet first on one of the super cops. I saw that. The runner came flying down from off the rooftop of City Hall and he hit that first cop in the back of his big cop head and shoulders. But the big monster cop, he just shrugged it off. Then he grabbed the runner by an ankle and tossed the dude overhead into the front of the building. The runner, he wasn't ready for any of that. He clearly wasn't ready for any of that. He smashed into the exterior wall, the brickwork chewing up his back. He smashed into that exterior wall and then he hit the ground. When he got up, I saw him choke up a mouthful of blood. Pretty nasty. The runner. The free runner. Up close, he really is just some dude, you know. Big goggles, tracksuit. You could walk right past him and never know. Those super cops, though. I bet they'll remember him. Once he knew what he was dealing with, the runner got to dancing. You know what I'm talking about. He bounces and weaves and does handsprings overhead of the guys he's dealing with. It's like if somebody could really do the kung fu shit you see in movies. If somebody could move that fast and hit that hard and never get tired. Never back down. And they hit him, those big guys. They hit him hard. I saw it. He got knocked down a few times, face all fucked up, getting blood all over the street. But, respect to the dude, he sure got back up again. Just one regular-sized dude going up against a pack of blood-stained super cops who were hungry to do some hurting. Once they'd kicked him around and he'd gotten a sense for what they could give out and what they could take, the runner got a bit more serious. Check it out. If you weren't there, you'll never understand. Words can't capture this sort of thing. It's like trying to describe a tropical bird. What am I supposed to do to verbally capture the impact of the shockwave when a dude got hit by a fist traveling at what might have been supersonic speeds? Another one of those super riot goons. The runner punched the guy so hard that he penetrated the armor in the guy's body, and for a second the runner's fist was stuck inside the big guy's guts. The runner had to, do this twist while kicking off sort of move, tumbling through the air like a crash test dummy, trailing what turned out to be about 20 feet of the big guy's intestines that had gotten tangled up around the runner's wrist. I guess the runner must have had some sort of training because some of his moves look sort of official. He went at one of those guys like when Donnie Yen beats up a wooden training dummy, zipping around the guy and literally pummeling him from every angle. He kicked a dude in the head so hard the guy's helmet shattered against his skull. Another guy, the runner punched out both his knees. It was like watching a martial arts movie fighting a monster movie. And it wasn't one-sided, that's for sure. Those guys got some real good hits in. At one point, the runner got slammed so hard he choked up a piece of his own ribs. It was like professional wrestling on radioactive steroids. One guy against 6 heavily armored monsters. 6 mountain-sized maniacs. They roared and they snarled. They put cracks in the concrete with their fists and feet. They crushed and smashed and destroyed. And this kid, he came out dressed like he was just going for a jog. And he fucked them up. And he didn't just do it for himself, neither. He didn't have to do it. He didn't have to get involved. He could have left. But he didn't. He stuck around and he did it for us. He put a big target right in the middle of his back. For us. I know I ain't ever going to be able to watch action movies again. Not after what I seen. Because this was sort of like that. Except it was real life. Real blood and guts and screaming. These guys were trying to kill that kid. And he was doing what he had to in order to put them down. Is it scary? Is it gross? Is it wrong? Sure. Sure it is. But is it better than getting stomped on by some steroid-injected super cop? Yeah, I'd say it probably is. Anyway, eventually the smoke cleared and the cops were down, and that's when the runner took off. By that time, even the medics had managed to retreat to a safer point. I got myself out of there, went home, and cried in the shower for an hour. I really want to stay involved. I do. I believe in the cause. But I don't know if I can risk ever having to go through something like that ever again. I don't know what to say about the Free Runner. I've never been so badly traumatized by something so objectively cool to watch.